this is Jennifer Kenney-Smith. I am the Area Sales Manager of Civilian Sales at GitLab, and I'm super excited to introduce my guest and new friend, Barbara Morton, who is the Deputy Chief of Veterans Experience Officer at the VA. Good morning, Barbara. How are you?
Good morning, Jennifer. Thanks so much for having me today.
It's so nice to meet you. For those who are listening, I literally ran into Barbara at an event a few months ago, and she was shining so bright, talking about the things that she's creating and deploying at the VA. And I was just super impressed with you and really excited to get to know you, because I'm also passionate about working with the VA. My history is I've been in IT sales my whole career, about 18 years. In my first job, I was at Storage Tech, and VA was my account as a junior rep. My boss told me I had 263 hospitals and a bunch of ISNs, I think 23 at the time, to go work with and help them with their data storage, which today would be really digital transformation, and worked with radiologists, cardiologists, and the folks in Austin, the Austin Automation Center. So I've worked with the VA for years, and I feel like it's a mission to be able to serve the vets because they serve us, and it's incredible. So I'm excited to talk to you today. Thanks for being here. So I start off the podcast always with, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you've been in your journey, and what brought you to the current role you're in today at the VA.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I love kind of telling a story, if I may, because a lot of times people are kind of asking me, hey, so I'm an attorney by trade, and they wonder, how on earth did you jump from being an attorney to being in customer experience? And so I always love to share this story. It started with a phone call from a veteran, World War II veteran, and this was a number of years ago. And I was in a role, attorney by trade, as I mentioned, at a group called the Board of Veterans Appeals. And I received a phone call from a veteran who was really lost in the appeals process, very complicated, not intuitive, had not had a great experience. And I could tell he was incredibly anxious. And so I said, let me take your name, take your number, and let me kind of do some digging around to see what's going on. And at the time, the role that I was in, it was really unusual for me to receive a direct phone call from a veteran. It just was not kind of part of my day-to-day. But I knew this was kind of an opportunity for me to see how I could kind of make it right for this person. So it turns out that VA had to rebuild some important records in his file. It was a paper file way back in the day at the time. And so at the end of every week, I would sort of give him a call, just let him know, hey, I'm working it. I haven't solved it yet, but just kind of giving him a status. And so about a month later, after, I've been able to kind of locate the records and have the file rebuilt, I was able to give him a call and give him the great news that his appeal was back on track. And it was at that moment that he gave me really an incredible compliment. He said, Barbara, thank you. I trusted you because I knew you would take care of me. Yeah. And that really struck with me in that moment, but I also knew, God, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. We're here to make veterans and their families feel like they can entrust us with, the most personal things in their lives. And so when the opportunity came up a number of years later for me to join this new concept called the Veterans Experience Office in 2016, I jumped at the chance. The ability to replicate that experience over and over again at scale was sort of irresistible for me. So that's how I landed here.
That's super awesome. So you began as a lawyer within the
Yes.
VA, and then were able to transition into this by, I think, kind of creating that role from this experience you had, being able to.
Yep. And I'd had sort of like an up close and personal view, being in the appeals space as an attorney, about how difficult that bureaucratic process was. And I say bureaucratic with love in my heart. I think bureaucracy has a lot of important elements to it, checks and balances and things of that nature, but it is a difficult process for folks to navigate. And so I definitely had gotten some up close and personal understanding of how frustrating that experience could be as well.
Okay, awesome. And interesting. I know we're going to dive into some of the things that you're working on today with digitization at the VA. But I'm guessing even at that beginning phase, that experiment almost of seeing all the paper processes and understanding all the different facets, and VA is very robust and very complex, and I imagine pretty hard to navigate outside. So to have you come inside and do your own assessment, a gap to goal on what would it look like if a vet needed to have that kind of support, in having you personalize it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's interesting. So while I was at the Board of Veterans Appeals, I've actually had an opportunity as well to help lead the IT modernization efforts. I mentioned paper to digits. So, this was, again, a number of years ago. But we were kind of in a position at the board where our siblings upstream in the claims process at Veterans Benefits Administration had started to transition to digits, and we were downstream in the appeals process. We were still in paper. So we had to undergo a pretty massive IT transformation, and we were able to kind of get that program up and running. But really, I remember that project and thinking to myself, why don't we ask sort of the judges and the attorneys and sort of other stakeholders, what is something that they would want to see in this, digitization initiative, So I was always kind of thinking about how does the human fit into any type of development and design? And that was really a core part of that project as well.
That's super cool. We didn't touch on this when we were prepping, but what are your thoughts, or what is your vision around digitizing that data as an approach to digital transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of the way of the world these days, right? I mean, I think that there's so much value in being able to sort of rapidly move in that direction, from sort of a data management perspective, obviously inside the four corners of an organization, but also from a user perspective, really kind of helping to sort of streamline any sort of application process is really one of the major goals and one of the major pillars of our digital transformation efforts here at VA.
Awesome. So where do you fit in then in the overarching umbrella of what the VA's mission is, and strategic and forward leaning? And there's a lot of folks that are out speaking on behalf of the VA and what y'all are doing. Where do you fit within that group, in your group?
Yeah, so structurally, organizationally, we're a standalone office that reports directly to the secretary. I can tell you, back when the office was stood up in January 2015, that was intentional. Again, sort of back in those days, there was really not any capability at an enterprise level for customer experience at VA, and really not across government. There were a couple shops here and there, but the goal of this transformation was to give this capability the weight of the secretary's office, and which is why it became its own organization with a direct reporting line to the secretary. So that's kind of structurally sort of how we fit in. Functionally, how we fit in is we are a shared service, meaning that we support the horizontal business lines across all of VA, so benefits, healthcare, memorial services, and appeals. And we work in close partnership with our Chief Technology Officer's office and OIT. We are very like-minded thinkers, very human-centered design thinkers in terms of practice and application and development. So it's been a wonderful partnership to find each other in the same orbit and drive these types of orientations around the experience, rather than just sort of checking the box of what we need to get done for a requirement.
Okay, so with that being said, the shared service piece, are the different groups retaining you, asking you for consulting, or are you going over and saying, these are places you need to improve? Kind of where's the...
It's a give and take. Yeah, it's a give and take. It's both. We have requests come into us, from the secretary's office, from the administrations. We also have opportunities to share, hey, we're seeing, this type of data from our surveys, here's how we might be able to do a deep dive with you to help you understand the data, and some tangible tools that you might be able to apply, in a facility with your employees to deliver better experiences. So I would say it's a two-way street, two-way partnership.
Awesome. Interesting. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about, and for those the folks that are listening, Barbara was the thought leader and the person to start this startup within the VA of customer experience. Is that accurate? You and
I'm one of many. I'm one of many. So
she doesn't want to take any credit. Let's just be.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of many. I mean, truthfully, I mean, the office was stood up in January 2015. The original team came in. They were all industry folks, super, super smart, wanted to bring some best practices into government. By the time I came in, about a year and a half later, it was 2016, and there were a lot of great ideas, a lot of just like energizing concepts, and this thing called human-centered design. And, wow, what an amazing, different way of thinking. But what I saw as the opportunity is we needed to bring the concepts down to earth and really practice and apply what customer experience, actually good customer experience, looks like, and how you practice and operationalize CX and human-centered design. So I would say that I think for myself, one of the things that I was able to bring as a perspective is being a public servant lifelong. I've been at VA for 16 years. I've always been in public service, is really understanding the ecosystem and the culture and sort of the mechanisms of government. Understanding how to get transformation done in government, I think was a huge opportunity for me to contribute, because I know the guts of VA, I know the guts of government. And that's one of the things that we wanted to capture in the customer experience cookbook, which I don't know if you've taken a look at that, but that's essentially, a practitioner's guide, a CX practitioner's guide for folks in government to understand, their common ingredients, if you will, across agencies that we all can pull on and kind of combine and sequence properly and adapt to create any transformation, and particularly CX transformation. And that was sort of something we wanted to capture for our brothers and sisters in government, to see how they might be able to stand up and mature their own customer experience capability. And there are different agency recipes in that as well. So you can see how we've done it at VA.
Awesome. And when we post this, we can put that link underneath the post. So those
Perfect.
those who are listening, because it's so important. It's really game changing of how we show up as we're developing new applications or transitioning how we provide data to the consumer. That experience should be at the forefront of the development.
Absolutely. Yep.
So how do you all approach that in regards to something is either needs to be tweaked or fixed, or the evolution of current applications within the VA, or a net new? Where does your team come in, and what is kind of the methodology behind your approach?
Yeah, so I would say, highly collaborative for us. We do have a multi-channel, omni-channel technology branch within my office, but it's really a partnership. We work so closely with the CTO's office and VA OINT, and also our brothers and sisters across the department. The unique sort of standpoint we have at the Veterans Experience Office is that we're sort of an enterprise looking office. So we look horizontally across digital properties, let's say contact centers, enterprise data management, if you will. So we're really trying to bring that lens of not just a vertical application that might work for one particular administration, but we're kind of thinking about the holistic, what does a veteran see? So one example of this effort, and again, total team partnership effort, is with va.gov and the relaunch of va.gov. So back in 2018, we had sort of heard for a while from veterans directly that, hey, where's the digital front door at VA? Like, there are lots of properties. I've got vets.gov, I've got va.gov, I've got eBenefits, I've got My Healthy Vet. Like, I don't know where to go, right? So we wanted to sort of respond to that and took some of our own medicine, which is human-centered design, and asked veterans, hey, if you were planning on interacting with the department, which one of these properties would you naturally gravitate towards? Veterans came back to us and they told us va.gov. That is a strong brand. If I don't know where to go, that is kind of my digital front door that I would naturally orient towards. And so that was sort of the first time in my recollection that a secretary level decision, strategic policy decision, was made at that time to make va.gov be the digital front door. Why? Because that's what veterans told us that they wanted. So really, really transformational. But we didn't stop there. Of course, we wanted to sort of redesign the website as well. I would say before 2018, it had looked pretty bureaucratic. And again, I say that with love in my heart, but it was things on the website like, the budget release, the 2018 president's budget. I don't think veterans really are interested in that. If they are, they can find it elsewhere, but they really wanted to transact with the department, right? And, file a claim or kind of look up appointment schedules. So we were able to sort of work with the CTO's office to redesign the website to what you see today. And you'll see top transactions up front. There's a personalized profile where veterans can log in and do many, many different transactions. And what we did is we measured, of course, the difference between before and after. So after the relaunch, customer satisfaction with va.gov has increased by like 20%. So proof positive, evidence-based, that when you design with, for, and around the customer, you will always every time produce better results for them. And so that's to me kind of the crown jewel of an example of how to apply the concept of customer experience in reality and bring it down to earth as well.
Yes. So I'm guessing you do that with pre-planning surveys and then follow-up surveys.
So it could be, it could be surveys, it could be human-centered design interviews. I mean, we do a lot of qualitative interviews and research as well, and the CTO's office does too. And
Awesome.
not just in the digital space. I mean, we do it across all of our projects. Our projects are not limited to digital solutions.
And what is your methodology of if you need to pivot and shift? If something that your team maybe thought was this is it, and then feedback from the vets is like not it. What does that look like to shift?
I mean, we just pivot and shift. I mean, right? I mean, if the feedback is coming back saying, hey, we need to, tinker a little bit here or there. I mean, those are the adaptations that you make. And that's the commitment, I think. When you commit to something like human-centered design as a practice, you commit to not necessarily knowing the solution outright, but being adaptive and sort of imagining how we might be able to sort of make those changes as you go through these sort of rapid sprints.
Awesome. And I love that because it's fast. And
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
we talk a lot about in DevSecOps and really the development is it's a Kaizen approach. It's small incremental changes.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be huge, but it still has to be available to do that shifting and adapting. Let's talk a little bit about the mobile app.
Yeah, the mobile app is sort of like one of the newest and greatest sort of applications that the CTO's office at VA has built. And it's really, again, super rapid development, co-designed with veterans, and veterans can kind of, do a lot of their transactions in terms of healthcare is coming online and also claims. And we hear from veterans, they want to be able to kind of have that immediate digital in their iPhone or their Android, whatever it is, to be able to interact with the department. And so that was sort of the vision of our partners in the CTO's office, and it continues to develop.
And 5-star reviews, I see.
I know it's got at least high 4s. Yeah, super high ratings. And again, you think about in government, we want evidence. We want proof to showcase that we're good stewards of taxpayer dollars and that we're making an impact, right, for the people. This is the evidence-based way that we can actually showcase back, you know what, experience matters. It's a co-equal measure of our performance. We're going to be judged on it, and here are the results.
Yeah. What would you say for advice for an agency or a leadership team that it doesn't necessarily lead with the customer experience when they're designing something net new? What is the cost of not factoring in or adding that as a value as an assessment?
So I think one of the challenges that I can speak to in the early days of Veterans Experience Office and sort of my experience here is, the concept of, are you ever going to sort of really have, tangible reduced call volume or cost avoidance, right? I mean, maybe yes, maybe no, but what we all have to do is agree that the operational metrics are not the only measure of our success. It also has to be the experience as well. And the costs, sometimes they're speculative, but think about an experience. If somebody's having a bad experience and you can't get through, let's say on your mobile app or your, your digital website, what are you going to do? You're probably going to call somebody, right? And then that is replicated thousands and thousands of times, right? So I think for us, it's about empowering the user sort of, at their center of gravity and being able to create an experience to sort of help them get to where they need to be first and foremost, but also not create downstream impacts and processes of additional, questions through calls or letters, et cetera. We want to make it as easy as possible. We don't want to just sort of check the box with whatever we think the requirements might be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's game changing. You gave me panic when I thought I've tried to reach out to like a bank, and
Right.
there's no phone number on there anymore either.
Yeah.
We may now just like text message them or chat.
Yeah.
That's not always the right answer either. What other thoughts do you want to share? We've had a great conversation so far. Is there anything that is inspiring, or as if you're not inspiring enough? My goodness, you're just a powerhouse of great energy. And I love this conversation, but what else do you want to leave with us, or anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I just want to share, I mean, particularly for my brothers and sisters who are in the CX space in government and maybe just starting up, anything is possible. Anything is possible. You just have to imagine it. And I know that sounds kind of, that's a little bit maybe cliche, but it's so true. There are so many opportunities we have to get back to basics in government, which is to serve the people first, not the bureaucracy first. And it is absolutely possible. And there are brothers and sisters all across public servants who've chosen public service for some ideal that they want to serve, right? A cause greater than themselves, like me. And it's possible to actually make government work best for the people. And there are people around you that can help you do that. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for being that leader, thought leader, and that light that people can come to and see what you're doing. Your work is excellent. I'm so grateful for the time and your energy and enthusiasm. You're teaching so much, and I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. We will be back on next week. Thank you, Atark.